babies in ovens.
That didn't happen. There were no babies in ovens.
Oh yes, there were.
No, there weren't. That's been refuted even by the Israelis.
There were.
No, there weren't.
There were.
There were no babies in ovens.
Well.
But let's agree. Hold on. Let's agree on what we do agree on. Okay, a horrible massacre happened. People were killed in their homes. Civilians
were killed. Were raped.
David, no. Look. Let's agree that was bad enough without adding stuff to it. Okay. Now I'm telling you, there's been no evidence of mass deliberate rapes. No such evidence.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. There's no such evidence.
Oh yes, of course there was.
No, there isn't.
There was a woman in the United Nations that came to Israel and did the research and brought those evidence to the United Nations.
I'll let you finish your question.
My
okay?
question is, how do I find compassion for these people?
Which people?
The animals that did that.
The animals that did that. I get your point of view, okay? In your point of view, everything you read actually happened the way you've read it. Hold on a second. I'm telling you what I understand your point of view to is. There was mass rapes, children beheaded, put into ovens, so on. Okay, now, objectively, I'm telling you, I looked at all the evidence I could. There were horrible massacres. Let's agree on that, okay? There were hostages, including young children and elderly people, civilians that should never have been captured, that were taken into captivity. Let's agree on that, okay? On the specific issues of babies in ovens and mass rapes, you and I are not going to agree, because I looked at evidence that you haven't looked at. But hold on a second. Let's just agree on what we do agree on, okay? And then let's take your question. How do we have compassion for these animals? Well, I'm not going to get into a big political rant here, but I'll tell you what I think very quickly, okay? If I saw the world from the perspective that you see the world from, I would 100% agree with you. But that's not how I see the world. That's not how I see the world. Number one. Number two, I've been to Palestine. 2.5 years ago, I went there to work with Palestinian women who've been tortured in Israeli jails, which has been documented by Israeli Physicians for Human Rights, by B'Tselem, the Israeli Human Rights Organization, by United Nations and others. Nobody ever talks about the thousands of Palestinians. Did you know that 2 Palestinian doctors were tortured to death recently by Israel? Doctors tortured to death. Now my question to you is, and I'm not going to go into the history, this is not the place for it. But I have a different view of the history. I used to see it the way you do. I don't anymore. I'm not gonna go into how I do see the history, because this is not the. Just let me finish. Honest to God, I'll give you the last word. I promise you. I do promise to give it. Okay. History did not begin on October the 7th. And here's what I know. Most of my fellow Jews, now in Canada, you know I mentioned the residential schools. In Canada, 4 years ago, there was a poll, a national poll. Now thousands of children died in those schools. People were tortured, raped, all kinds of stuff, not even controversial. There was a poll in Canada. 70% of Canadians 4 years ago said they knew nothing or little about the residential schools. 70% of Canadians knew nothing or little about the residential schools. So what happened to indigenous people? If you do a poll in the United States, based on all the Hollywood movies that people have seen, until very few years ago, and even now, most people will know nothing about what happened to the indigenous people here. Nothing. The genocide, the torture, the rape, the starvation. They know nothing about it. And in some states in the United States, it's illegal to even to teach it in the schools. Now, do you think the average Jew knows anything about the indigenous people of Palestine? No, just a second. So, these animals that you talk about, the first massacre of Palestinians in Gaza didn't happen last year. Didn't even happen 4 or 5 years ago when they killed hundreds of children with their bombs. It happened in 1956. But just let me just a second. In 1956, they massacred 200 civilians. Do you know about it? Do you know about it? You've never heard of it. Of course you haven't heard of it. That's why you can call them animals. Otherwise, you'd see them like human beings like the rest of us.